Here we go. Okay. And with that, anyone can read a joke, but can you deliver? If your joke falls flat, starts and sputters, or just lacks pizzazz, get a tune-up at George's Under the Hood Comedy Shop. In this hands-on workshop, you'll learn how to get maximum mileage without stalling or running over your audience. Improve your body mechanics and gas up with new ideas. Adjust the carburetor and muffler for better vocal variety. Replace the headlights and get a front-end alignment. Learn how to pace yourself and know when to apply the brakes. Take ownership and learn to drive home your delivery with confidence. And for me, half that doesn't naturally apply because I have an electric car, but I still need to replace the blinker fluid every once in a while. And with that, warm welcome, George Jarosik.
We've been talking about the weather, it's been raining the past week. We had a lot of rain in Sacramento. Well, a couple of nights ago, it was late at night, there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, there was nobody around. I looked down and there was a slug on the doormat. You know, when it rained, the slugs come out. So being a guy, I grabbed the slug and I threw it as hard as I could, slammed the door. 1 year later, there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, looked around, nobody around. I looked down the doormat and there was a slug. The slug looked back up at me and said, "What was that all about?" Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, welcome. Thank you for inviting me to do a special education moment. I enjoy telling a joke. I love telling a joke. And so I want to share some of the things I've learned along the way of how to tell a joke. Especially you in this room, with a raise of hand, how many people have attended a area speech contest or division speech contest, and somebody says, "Does anybody know a joke?" Or when they have technical difficulties, or they went too fast in the interviews and said, trying to kill time. "Does anybody know a joke?" Of course, I got a joke. I always have a back pocket joke. Always have a back pocket joke. So let's kick this stuff off. Know your audience. Number one, know your audience. Who are you going to give your joke to? Is it going to be your church? If it's going to be your church, of course, it's going to be family friendly so that, it's just appropriate for the church. Now, you might have a little bit of religious humor, but that depends on you and your church. They know you, and especially if you're a pastor or priest, you can get away with that, but you got to be careful. Now, I belong to 5 clubs. I know I'm crazy. One of my clubs is a gambling casino, Thunder Valley Casino in Lincoln, California. And so at our club, anything goes. Adult humor, it could be X-rated, everything goes. But we understand that. All the members in the club know that it's appropriate. And so we can tell religious jokes, political jokes. So everything goes on that. One of my other clubs I used to belong to was called the Persuaders, CalPERS, it's state retirement. And there we do not. We only tell jokes that you would tell your grandmother, depending on who your grandmother is. But we even put it in our club constitution. We only tell clean jokes. So it's appropriate who your audience is. And my other clubs are a mix of young people and old people. So with old people, I can go back in the days when I was a kid type jokes. And then, but I can also talk about the current movies, current songs. So know your audience. Who are you going to be speaking to? Secondly, is the length of the joke. How long does the Toastmasters giving you to tell a joke? Normally in a club, it's 1 to 2 minutes. I know that. But sometimes they may want to go a little bit longer, or they may want to cut you real short. So how long is your joke? Sometimes the keynote speaker didn't make it. Somebody was supposed to give a speech that day and it didn't show up. And they say, "Well, can you tell a few jokes, George?" Can I tell a few jokes? And so I always have a group of jokes to tell, just in case they need a stand-up comedian. So, so have your sources ready. How long are you going to be telling your joke? Third, the sources. Where do you get the jokes? Where do you find humor? Mine, I know you're going to laugh, back to the old days, but Reader's Digest. Reader's Digest has some of the best jokes. They're clean, children friendly, and no obscene jokes. And some of the stories real life stories that they tell that you can use as your jokes. And I'll be telling one shortly, a little bit at the end of my thing, my presentation. But Reader's Digest. Another is, of course, the internet, Google. But if you've gone through and looked for jokes on the internet and just say, give me funny jokes, you will get everything: adult humor, adult pictures, everything under the sky, under the shade. And so, what I do with my search, Google's really good now. It's much better than it used to be. And I would say, clean children's jokes with a twist. So I'll explain. Clean children's jokes. So, as Walt Disney made movies for children, but they were for adults too. When I say children jokes, they're usually adult jokes too. You know, clean jokes. And then I always put the word clean in there. Doesn't always work, no guarantee, but sometimes you do get good, clean jokes. And then I say with a twist, meaning at the end, like Henny Youngman would say, take my wife, please. Or, oh, I've got one for you. Okay. This is a humor club, right? Okay, here we go. I went golfing the other day with my buddy, and we got to the fourth hole, and we were getting ready to pull my putter out when my friend says, wait. I bet you can't do a hole in one. In fact, I bet you can't do a hole in one. I'll bet $100 on it. And so I thought about it and I says, okay, you're on. So I pulled out my putter, started lining up the hole when all of a sudden a funeral procession came by. A funeral procession. But being the person I am, I took my hat off, put it over my head hard, and lowered my head. And then when the funeral procession drove by, I put the hat back on, get my putter, started lining up the hole, when all of a sudden my friend says, wait. I am so honored to be your friend. I mean, just here we have $100 bet going on, but you stopped to pay homage for a funeral procession going by. Thank you for being my friend. I looked at my friend and I said, I'm pausing here, it was the least I could do. We were married for 30 years. The twist, the twist at the end of the joke. People weren't ready for that. So that's why I always do the Google search with a twist at the end. Club themes. Sometimes you want to have a club theme for a joke, like Easter's coming up. So you want a club theme for Easter, a joke for Easter. I've been going on AI. Believe it or not, AI's been amazing. I don't know if you have with Chat GPT. It's free. All you got to do is put your email in. So I've been doing it. I've been doing it for the past year, but lately I've been doing a lot of Chat GPT. And so I did. I knew you guys were coming up. So I did. I says, Chat GPT, give me 3 jokes about Easter and make them short. And you spell it out. You tell Chat GPT what you want. So here we go. Are you ready? Why did the Easter egg say, what did the Easter egg say to the comedian? You crack me up. This is Chat GPT. There's such good jokes. What happened to the Easter bunny that misbehaved in school? He was egg spelled. No, didn't say there were going to be good ones, but and then finally, what does the Easter bunny like to dance to? Hip hop, of course. So, so look at that's another source to look at is Chat GP. It's amazing. Then finally is the rule of 3. Did you notice that? I told you 3 jokes. When they're short jokes, tell 3 jokes. Don't tell 2 because it's just not enough. Don't tell 4 or more. It's too many. And that's a trick that the magicians do, theater groups do. You always do groups of 3. So 3 works. They did a research one time to find out why 3 works. They couldn't find out why. They don't know why 3 works. That's our human nature. We just like 3. So when you're telling 3 jokes, 3 knock jokes, 3 lyrics, do 3s. It's just perfect for that. And then finally, if you're doing a whole bunch of jokes, the Toastmasters, as a scenario I just pointed out, the speaker didn't show up, and you've got a whole bunch of jokes to tell. Save your best joke for last. End with a high note, just like George Costanza does on Seinfeld. Leading on a high note, you want to leave with people remembering that guy's funny. If you leave with your bad joke, People are going to say, "Oh, don't ever ask for George to tell a joke again. He's horrible." So always save your best joke for last. Now we're going to dissect a joke. Okay, all jokes are just like speeches. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning sets the stage, sets the tone, sets everything. Then you got the middle part, like the opening when I told you about the slug. I said it was raining outside. It was late at night. And then there was a knock on the door. So I set the stage for what was going to happen with your joke, just like a speech. And then I told you what happened. And then at the end, you've got the ending. The uh, the pause for, oh, I'm losing my words, but punchline. Thank you, sir, William, about that. So yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. But again, it's just like that one. Own the joke. When I am going to die, I'm going to have a joke put on my tombstone. I am. And I'll be telling you at the end, just before we're done here. So when you get a joke, come prepared. Don't come to the meeting and says, "Oh yeah, I got to find the joke and look at it real quick." Come prepared with one or two or even three backup jokes, and be prepared for the club meeting to tell a joke. And then rehearse over and over again. Rehearse with your wife, your husband. And if they say that's not funny, then you should go get another joke because they're honest with you, brutally honest. My wife was very brutal honest with me. And then also, if it's going to be at work, tell your work friend the joke and see if they laughed at it, if it was funny or not, and then get their opinion. So own the joke. Don't make fun of your wife or husband, your spouse. Don't make fun of them. Don't include them. Be the punchline. If there's a punchline or a butt of the joke, you be the butt of the joke, not your friends or anything. And especially your boss, your director, your manager. You want to keep your job. Okay, don't do that. If you don't care about your boss, yeah, get ready to leave anyway. Leave on a high note, but no, don't include your boss, your director, your friend. Just and even friends at work. If you have a good friend you work with, and they know that you joke back and forth with the other, then yeah, maybe so. But be careful about that. You always be the the butt of your jokes. Now we get to what William says, the punch. Pause before telling the punchline. And it's just really hard to do, but count to three. Before you say the punchline, go in your mind, 1, 2, 3, then the punchline. So that everybody's ready. They're waiting to hear. They know it's coming. So that little pause really helps. So count to three before you tell your punchline. Tell the punchline, then have everybody unmute themselves. The other day I told a joke at my club on Tuesday night, and I told the joke, three of those three Easter jokes. And the first one, nobody laughed. I'm like, oh man, they're muted. So I asked everybody, unmute yourself. And then I told my other two jokes, I could hear them laugh. And it's all good. I'm not, I'm a good comedian. Good, good. And then finally, at the end, wait. When you tell your joke at the lectern, stay. Don't run to your chair. Or when you're at the square in your virtual reality, don't mute yourself right away. When you tell your joke, stand for a few minutes to enjoy the punch. Everybody going to applause and say how good you were, or how horrible the joke was, or the groans and stuff. So before you do that, stay there. That's when you pause for your punchline and then stay at the lectern. Don't run to the chair right away. Okay, I'm ready. I think that's it I wanted to cover. Okay. I went to McDonald's the other day, and this joke will be an example of everything I've talked about so far. I went to McDonald's the other day to get a hamburger and fries. So I did. I went to hamburger, fries, and then went back to my chair and had a book. So I started reading it. And I looked up, and a senior couple was walking in, old couple was walking in. And it was a husband and wife. They went to the counter, and they ordered one hamburger, one order of fries, and one drink. Well, I thought, that's interesting. They sat down. The old man pulls out a knife, cuts the hamburger in half. He keeps half, gives his wife half of it, divvies up the fries, gives her half of those fries, and put the drink right in the middle. Well, the old man started eating away in the hamburger and fries, just having a great old time. His wife just had her arms crossed, looking at her food. Well, being the man I am, I got up and I said, "Sir, please let me buy your wife a meal. It'll be my honor." He looked up at me and said, "No, no, We split everything 50-50 all the way. He said, thank you, though. So I sat back down, continued reading my book. 5 minutes later, I look up, same thing's going on. The old man's having a good time eating his hamburger and fries, just having a great time. The old lady's got her arms crossed, looking, and I'm looking at Mary Jane. No, you're not the old lady. But I look at the old lady and I says, ma'am, I said, sir, please, can I buy your wife a meal? And he says, no, no, we split everything 50-50 all the way. Well, I look at the little lady and I says, ma'am, why aren't you eating? She says, I'm waiting to use the teeth. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
That was a good one right at the end there. Okay, now let's move on to the next portion. We have our prepared speeches. Actually, does anyone have any feedback or comments they want to?
Yeah, let's ask George a couple of questions there. It there's a challenge when people get a joke off the internet and they sit there and they just read the joke for the page and turn. How can they take and improve that easily?
Well, come the night before, if you can, or if you got time, at least 30 minutes before, and read the joke over and over again, and then make it yours. Change the words a little bit to make it yours. So that's what I would do. Next question.
Anyone else?
Follow these trips and you'll be incredible at telling a joke. They'll ask you to come back. They don't even ask any time at the area. They always say, George, you have a joke.
Okay.
Well, I have to admit, I was with George last week in Vegas with during the Croy and stage time. And every time somebody said, is there a joke? George turned and pointed at me. What can I say?
So it looks like we've got the red light or the red, what is that, the pincushion? I don't know. And so now we're going to move on to our prepared speeches. And the first prepared speech is going to be given by distinguished Toastmaster Francine Julin. And
Gotta stop the recording